Ethan Blake was the kind of man who never had to try too hard. He walked into a room, and people noticed. Always. Tall, with broad shoulders and an easy, confident stride, he looked like he belonged in glossy magazine ads, sharp jawline, perfectly trimmed stubble, short dark brown hair always slightly tousled, as if he didn't care but somehow still looked perfect. His eyes, steel blue, cool and unreadable, could make you feel like you were the only person in the room. He wore power like a second skin. A tailored black suit, crisp white shirt, a watch worth more than some cars, everything about him said success. And yes, Ethan Blake knew it. He was the CEO of Blake & Company, a luxury marketing firm downtown. Smart, rich, and, as the tabloids liked to call him, the city's most eligible heartbreaker. Women loved him, men wanted to be him, and Ethan? He loved the attention. Except maybe from one person. Lily Hart. She was his assistant, quiet, precise, always on time, always prepared. The kind of woman who didn't stand out in a crowd but kept everything running smoothly. Lily was 27, slim, average height, with soft brown hair she always tied in a low ponytail. Not messy, just practical. Her eyes were a warm hazel, but she rarely looked anyone directly in the eye unless it was work-related. No heavy makeup, just a hint of lip balm. Her clothes, beige blouses, gray skirts, flats. She blended into the background like a whisper. And yet, Ethan valued her more than most people in his office, not that he'd ever admit it. She remembered everything. Anticipated his needs before he said a word. If his world was chaos, Lily was the calm holding it together. Still, when his friends joked about his boring little assistant, Ethan usually laughed it off. She wasn't his type, not flashy, not flirtatious. Just efficient. Until that Friday afternoon. The city skyline glowed through the tall glass windows of Ethan's office. The air smelled of fresh coffee and expensive cologne. He was leaning against his desk, phone in hand, talking to his best friend and business partner, Ryan Cole. Ryan was the opposite of Lily, loud, charismatic, a serial flirt like Ethan, only with worse self-control. He sat in the armchair, sipping whiskey and scrolling through his phone. So, the gala's next week, Ryan said. Old Hollywood theme. You're bringing someone, right? Ethan smirked. Maybe. Haven't decided yet. Oh, come on, Ryan teased. Don't tell me you're going solo. You always bring some model or actress. People expect it. Ethan laughed, a low confident sound. Yeah, but I'm thinking of switching things up this time. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Switching up how? Ethan shrugged casually. I might bring Lily. Ryan nearly choked on his drink. Your assistant? That Lily? Ethan grinned. Why not? She works hard. Maybe she deserves a night out. Ryan leaned forward, smirking. Be honest, man. You just want to shock people. Ethan's smile turned playful. Maybe. Think about it, me, showing up with my no-nonsense assistant. The contrast will be hilarious. She'll probably wear a cardigan to a red carpet event. They both laughed, the sound echoing in the large office. Don't be cruel, Ryan said. She seems sweet. Yeah, she is, Ethan replied, still smiling. But come on, Ryan, you know how these things go. Everyone's in designer gowns and tuxedos. She might not fit in. Ryan chuckled. So what's the plan? Charity case? Or are you trying to prove you can make any woman look good next to you? Ethan smirked. Something like that. They both laughed again. What Ethan didn't realize was that Lily was standing just outside the office door, holding a stack of folders, frozen in place. She hadn't meant to eavesdrop. She'd only come to hand him the final reports before the weekend. But when she heard her name, her own name, something made her stop. Her heart sank as she listened. Every word felt heavier than the last. She might not fit in. She'll probably wear a cardigan. It'll be hilarious. They laughed again, and Lily's fingers tightened around the papers. Her face burned. For a second, she couldn't breathe. All this time, she thought he respected her. Maybe not as a friend, but at least as a colleague. She'd spent months working late, fixing his mistakes, protecting his image. And this was how he saw her? A joke. She took a deep breath, straightened her posture, and quietly walked away. No one noticed. That evening, Lily sat in her small apartment, staring at her reflection in the mirror. The same plain blouse. The same ponytail. The same tired eyes. She wasn't ugly, she knew that. But she'd learned long ago that beauty wasn't her strength. People liked her for her reliability, her intelligence. She'd stopped trying to be pretty years ago. But now, something in her chest ached. Not because Ethan had insulted her, but because he'd never truly seen her. The screen of her phone lit up, a message from her best friend, Mia. Mia, drinks tonight? You sound dead in your last text. Lily smiled faintly and typed back. Can we do a makeover instead? Mia lived in a small studio filled with clothes, mirrors, and chaos. She was a stylist, bold red hair, tattoos, and the energy of a hurricane. When Lily told her everything, Mia's eyes widened. He said what? Lily shrugged. Doesn't matter. It's just. I don't want to be his joke. Mia crossed her arms. Oh, honey. You won't be. You're going to that party, right? Lily hesitated. I have to. It's company policy for executives and assistants to attend. Perfect, Mia said with a wicked grin. Then he's about to learn a lesson in underestimating people. Lily blinked. What do you mean? I mean, Mia said, pulling open her wardrobe, we're going to show him exactly what he missed. The night stretched on, fabrics, jewelry, ideas. Mia pulled out dresses, shoes, makeup palettes. Lily tried to protest, but deep down, a spark had already ignited. For the first time in years, she felt something new, curiosity about her own reflection. Maybe she wasn't invisible. Maybe she'd just stopped letting herself be seen. When Mia held up a long, elegant evening gown, deep emerald green that matched Lily's eyes, Lily's breath caught. Try this, Mia said softly. Trust me. Lily turned toward the mirror. The woman staring back wasn't the quiet assistant everyone ignored. She looked alive. And at that moment, Lily Hart made a silent promise. If Ethan Blake wanted a show, she'd give him one he'd never forget. Saturday morning sunlight spilled through the blinds, cutting across Lily's apartment. She hadn't slept much. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard Ethan's voice again, laughing, mocking, casual. She hated that it hurt so much. It shouldn't. He was her boss. Not her friend. Not someone whose opinion should matter. But it did. Mia walked in holding 2 cups of coffee and a determined expression. All right, she said, placing one on the table. We have 1 week. Let's turn this heartbreak into a power move. Lily gave a small laugh. You make it sound like a mission. Mia grinned. It is a mission. Operation Shock the CEO. Lily rolled her eyes but couldn't help smiling. Mia opened her laptop and began scrolling through photos. Okay, so it's an old Hollywood-themed gala. Think elegance, confidence, class. We're not doing flashy. We're doing unforgettable. She turned the screen toward Lily, showing pictures of Audrey Hepburn, Grace Kelly, and modern red carpet looks inspired by them. I'm not sure I can pull that off, Lily said quietly. Mia raised an eyebrow. Honey, you can. You've just been hiding behind beige cardigans and self-doubt. Lily laughed nervously. Beige is safe. Safe is boring. Mia stood up and grabbed a measuring tape. Now stand straight. If he's going to see you, let him see the real you, not the version that apologizes for existing. As Mia took her measurements, Lily stared at herself in the mirror. The same face. The same eyes. But maybe, just maybe, she could let herself be different, not for him, but for her. For the next few days, after work, she went to Mia's studio. Each evening felt like a small step out of her comfort zone. First, hair. Mia loosened the ponytail, cutting a few strands to frame her face. You have such soft features. Why hide them? Then makeup, subtle but powerful. We're not covering you up, Mia said as she worked. We're highlighting you. Then came the dress. After trying several, Lily finally stopped in front of the emerald green gown. It wasn't loud or overly glamorous. It was elegant. The neckline was modest but graceful, the fabric smooth and flowing. When she moved, it shimmered softly under the light. Mia nodded in approval. Perfect. You look like you walked straight out of a dream. Lily looked at her reflection, and for the first time, she saw it too. Meanwhile, across town, Ethan Blake was too busy to think about his assistant. Or at least, that's what he told himself. He was in a board meeting, pretending to listen, but every now and then, his mind drifted. He'd caught himself glancing at Lily more often lately, not because of her looks, but because she'd become even quieter. She no longer chatted during breaks, no longer brought him his usual coffee with that small polite smile. She did her job perfectly, but something had changed. It bothered him. He didn't know why. Later that evening, Ryan dropped by his office again. So, big night coming up, Ryan said with a grin. You bringing your assistant, then? Ethan smirked. Yeah. Why not? Ryan chuckled. Man, I can't wait to see everyone's faces. Ethan leaned back in his chair. It'll be fun. But as soon as Ryan left, the thought didn't feel fun anymore. Something about it suddenly felt wrong. Friday arrived before she knew it. The gala was that night. Lily stood in front of the mirror, staring at herself in disbelief. Mia had done her magic. Her soft brown hair fell in loose waves over her shoulders, her hazel eyes sparkled, and the emerald gown hugged her perfectly. A silver bracelet glimmered on her wrist, simple, delicate, elegant. Mia stepped back and smiled. Ethan Blake is not ready for this. Lily laughed nervously. I'm not sure I am either. Oh, you are, Mia said, adjusting one last strand of hair. Just remember, you're not doing this for him. You're doing this because you're done being invisible. Lily nodded slowly. Yeah. I think I am. The hotel where the gala was held was breathtaking, chandeliers, marble floors, golden light reflecting off crystal glasses. Everywhere she looked, people were dressed like movie stars. As Lily stepped out of the car, cameras flashed. The doorman smiled politely, clearly unsure who she was but sensing her importance. She felt her pulse quicken, but her step stayed steady. Inside, the music was soft jazz, the air buzzing with laughter and expensive perfume. And then she saw him. Ethan stood near the bar, surrounded by executives and clients. Black tuxedo, champagne in hand, confidence radiating as usual. He looked untouchable, until he saw her. His conversation froze mid-sentence. The glass nearly slipped from his hand. For a moment, he didn't even recognize her. His brain tried to connect the dots, the quiet assistant from the office, and this woman who looked like she had walked straight out of a film premiere. The room seemed to pause. People turned, whispering. Even Ryan, standing beside Ethan, muttered, "Wait, is that Lily?" Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. He wasn't used to being surprised, and definitely not like this. Lily approached calmly, every step measured. She smiled politely. "Good evening, Mr. Blake." Ethan blinked, finding his voice. "Lily. Wow. You look." He stopped himself before saying, "Different." Instead, incredible. She tilted her head slightly. Thank you. I thought I'd make sure not to embarrass the company tonight. It was subtle, just enough for him to understand she'd heard everything. A flicker of guilt crossed his eyes. You heard that? She smiled again, calm and unreadable. I hear more than you think. Then she turned away, leaving him standing there speechless, something no one had ever managed to do before. The night went on, but Ethan couldn't focus. She was graceful, composed, speaking confidently with clients, laughing lightly with people he barely remembered their names. Every time he looked her way, she seemed to glow, not because of the dress or the makeup, but because she carried herself differently. She wasn't the invisible assistant anymore. For the first time in his life, Ethan Blake didn't know how to play the game. And as the night ended, when Lily walked past him toward the exit, he couldn't stop himself. Lily, he said softly. She turned. He hesitated, the words stuck in his throat. You really surprised me tonight. Her eyes met his, calm, strong. That was the idea. Then she smiled, turned, and walked away. Leaving Ethan Blake standing in the middle of the room, surrounded by lights, applause, and laughter, but feeling completely alone. The sound of jazz filled the ballroom like warm honey, smooth, golden, alive. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above, laughter echoed off marble, and camera flashes caught the shine of sequins and champagne. It was a night made for Ethan Blake, the kind of night where he was supposed to rule the room. Only this time, he wasn't the one everyone was watching. It was her. Lily Hart. He couldn't take his eyes off her. Everywhere she went, people turned their heads. She wasn't loud, not trying to grab attention, but somehow, she had all of it. Her emerald dress shimmered softly as she moved, her hair brushed over one shoulder, and her confidence radiated like quiet power. Ethan had spent years surrounded by women who wanted to impress him, bold, glamorous, predictable. But Lily didn't try. And that's exactly what made her unforgettable. Ryan leaned closer, smirking. Man, you didn't tell me she could look like that. Ethan didn't answer. He was too busy watching her talk to one of the firm's biggest clients, Mr. Donovan, a silver-haired businessman known for his charm and love for beautiful women. Lily laughed at something Donovan said, and Ethan felt something strange, sharp, unfamiliar. Jealousy. He took a sip of his drink to cover it up. She's just my assistant, he said too quickly. Ryan chuckled. Sure, keep telling yourself that. Lily, meanwhile, felt the heat of the room, the looks, the whispers, but she didn't let them touch her. She kept her smile easy, her posture confident, her tone calm. Inside, though, her heart raced. Mia had told her to own the night, and she was doing exactly that. Still, she could feel Ethan's gaze following her from across the room. And maybe, deep down, she liked it. When Mr. Donovan offered her a glass of champagne and said, "You must be the hidden gem of Blake and Company," Lily smiled politely. "I'm not sure about that," she said. "I'm just part of the team." Ethan appeared suddenly, his voice smooth but tight. "Actually, Lily is the backbone of our office," he said, placing a hand lightly on her arm, possessive without meaning to be. "She keeps me from losing my mind most days." Lily turned to look at him. There it was, that signature Blake confidence, the charm that could win over anyone. But this time, she wasn't impressed. "Well," she said calmly, "someone has to keep things professional." Her tone was polite, but her eyes told him she hadn't forgotten his joke. Ethan gave a small, awkward laugh. "Touché." Donovan chuckled. "I like her. She's got a spark." Ethan's smile tightened. "She certainly does." As the evening went on, Lily found herself surrounded by people asking her questions, about work, about the company, even about her dress. For once, she wasn't invisible. And Ethan was lost. He tried to focus on conversations, but every time he turned around, she was there, laughing softly, talking confidently, completely at ease. She didn't need his approval anymore. And that realization did something to him, something he didn't understand. At one point, he found himself watching her from the balcony, as she stood under the soft light, looking out at the city skyline. Her face was calm, but her eyes seemed far away, thoughtful, almost sad. He approached quietly. "You clean up well, Hart." She didn't look at him. That sounds like something a boss would say to his assistant. He smirked. Maybe. Or maybe it's something a man says when he's impressed. Lily finally turned, meeting his gaze. Impressed? That's not what you were expecting, was it? Ethan exhaled slowly. You heard what I said that day. I did. He rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly unsure. I didn't mean it like that. I was joking. Right, she said softly. Because people always joke about others when they respect them. There was no anger in her voice, just quiet truth. And that hit harder than shouting ever could. Ethan looked away, guilt flickering across his face. You're right. I was an idiot. Lily smiled faintly. Yes, you were. They both laughed, a small, awkward laugh that somehow broke the tension. Back inside, the music slowed. Couples were moving to the dance floor as the band played a soft, romantic tune. Ryan waved from across the room. Come on, Blake. Dance floor's open. Ethan turned back to Lily. Dance with me? She hesitated. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because people are already staring. He smiled, just a little. Then let them. For a moment, she almost said no, but then she remembered why she came here. To stop being afraid. She placed her hand in his. Ethan led her onto the dance floor, and suddenly the world went quiet. The chatter, the music, the lights, all blurred. His hand rested gently on her waist, hers on his shoulder. Neither of them spoke. The air between them was charged, confusing, new, impossible to ignore. You really did surprise me, he said quietly. I wasn't trying to, she replied. I know. He smiled softly. That's why you did. Their eyes met. For the first time, his confident mask slipped. She saw something else behind it, something human. The song ended, but neither of them moved. Until a camera flash broke the moment. Someone laughed. Ethan Blake finally dances with someone who isn't a model. Lily pulled back instantly. That's my cue to leave. Lily. Good night, Mr. Blake. And with that, she walked away again, leaving him standing alone on the dance floor, surrounded by whispers. Later that night, after everyone had gone, Ethan found himself outside, the city lights stretching endlessly before him. He loosened his tie and sighed. Ryan stepped beside him, still grinning. You're in trouble, my friend. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? Ryan took a sip of his drink. You can lie to everyone else, but not to me. You're looking at her differently. Ethan said nothing. Ryan chuckled. You've had dozens of women chase you, Ethan. But this one? She's walking away, and that's why you can't stop watching. Ethan didn't respond. He just stared at the skyline, his reflection faintly visible in the glass. For once, the man who always had control didn't know what to do. Meanwhile, in a cab across town, Lily leaned her head against the window, the city lights blurring past. Her heart was still racing. Not from the dance, not from the attention, but from the look in Ethan's eyes when they were close. For a moment, she'd seen something she wasn't supposed to see. Something real. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself. Don't fall for it. He's still the same man. But deep down, she wasn't sure she believed that anymore. Monday morning came too fast. The city was gray and quiet after the storm of Friday night. Inside Blake and Company. Everything looked the same, but Ethan could feel that something had shifted. Lily was at her desk as always, typing, focused, calm. Her emerald dress and loose curls were gone, the ponytail was back, the simple blouse, the quiet grace. But somehow, she wasn't the same woman anymore. When Ethan walked by, she didn't glance up. No polite smile, no, "Good morning, Mr. Blake." Just silence. He paused by her desk. "Morning, Lily." "Good morning, sir," she said evenly, eyes still on her screen. "Sir." She hadn't called him that in months. Ethan frowned slightly. "I wanted to thank you again for Friday." "You really?" "It was a company event," she interrupted softly. "No need to thank me." Then she handed him a folder. "Your schedule for the week." He took it slowly, watching her. She wasn't cold, she was composed. Unreachable. And that bothered him more than he wanted to admit. The rest of the day dragged. Meetings, phone calls, small talk, none of it seemed to matter. Ethan kept catching himself looking toward her desk. She didn't look back once. By lunchtime, he couldn't stand it anymore. He leaned against her doorway, trying to sound casual. "Hey. Have you eaten?" "I have lunch plans," she said without glancing up. "With who?" She finally met his eyes. "A friend." The way she said it, calm, clear, made something twist in his chest. He didn't have the right to feel jealous, but he did. When she left, Ryan slipped into the office, grinning as always. "So," Ryan said, dropping into a chair, "how's the damage control?" Ethan frowned. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, come on," Ryan laughed. "Everyone's talking about the gala. Your assistant, the dance, dude, that's headline-level office gossip." Ethan groaned, rubbing his forehead. "Fantastic." Ryan leaned forward. "Be honest. You like her?" Ethan's head shot up. "What?" "No. She's my assistant." "Right," Ryan said, smirking. "And I'm the Pope." "I'm serious," Ethan said, but his voice lacked conviction. Ryan studied him for a moment. "You've been with dozens of women, Ethan. But not one of them ever got under your skin. This one did. I saw your face when she walked away from you." Ethan didn't reply. He just stared out the window. That evening, after everyone left, Lily was still at her desk. The office was quiet, city lights glowing outside the tall windows. She didn't notice Ethan standing in the doorway until he spoke. "You work too much." She didn't look up. "Someone has to." He smiled faintly. "Touché." He stepped closer. "Lily, about the gala." She stopped typing. "You don't need to explain, Mr. Blake." "Yes, I do." His tone softened. "I said something stupid. I hurt you." Lily looked up at him finally, her hazel eyes calm but guarded. "You didn't hurt me. You just reminded me of something I already knew." "What's that?" "That people like you see what they want to see." Ethan exhaled slowly. "And what do I see, according to you?" "A reliable assistant," she said quietly. "Nothing more." He took a step closer, lowering his voice. "That's not true." For a heartbeat, the air between them tightened. Her breath caught slightly, but she didn't move. "Then what do you see?" she asked. Ethan hesitated. He wanted to say it, that she'd been on his mind every hour since that night, that her smile had burned into his thoughts, that no one had ever made him feel this off balance. But all he managed was, "I'm still figuring that out." Lily looked at him for a long moment, then returned to her screen. "Then maybe you should do that, quietly." Her voice wasn't angry. It was soft, tired. Like she'd built walls he no longer had permission to cross. Ethan stood there for another moment, unsure what to say. Then he nodded slowly and left. The next day, the tension didn't fade, it deepened. Ethan tried to act normal, but his attention drifted to her constantly. The sound of her voice, the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the calm precision of her work, everything about her drew him in, and he hated that he couldn't stop it. That evening, he caught her in the elevator. Just the two of them. He tried to joke. "You're avoiding me." Lily pressed the button for the ground floor. "No. I'm focusing on my job." "That's the same thing," he said lightly. Her lips curved faintly, but she didn't look at him. "You're not used to people ignoring you, are you?" He grinned. "Not really." "Well," she said, stepping out as the doors opened, "consider this a new experience." Ethan laughed under his breath as she walked away, and for the first time, he realized he liked the challenge. Over the next few days, their rhythm shifted. He started showing up early, just to catch her before the office filled. He brought her coffee, pretending it was nothing. He asked her opinion in meetings, genuinely listening. And slowly, the ice began to crack. One evening, when everyone had gone, she stayed late again, working through reports. Ethan appeared at her desk with 2 cups of coffee. "Peace offering," he said. She glanced up. "That's my line." He smiled. "I'm stealing it." They shared a small laugh, the first since the gala. For a few minutes, the silence between them wasn't awkward anymore. It was comfortable. He sat on the edge of her desk, sipping his drink. "You know, when I hired you, I thought I needed someone who could handle chaos." "And?" she asked. "You didn't just handle it," he said softly. "You made me want to be better at it." Lily looked at him, really looked. There was something new in his face. Not arrogance. Not the usual self-assurance. Something quieter. Real. "I don't know what you're trying to say, Ethan," she said gently. "Neither do I," he admitted. "But I think I'm done pretending it's nothing." Her pulse quickened, but she forced her voice to stay steady. "You're my boss." He nodded. "I know. And this, whatever it is, can't happen." He smiled faintly. "I didn't say it would. I just wanted you to know that you're not invisible anymore. Not to me." Lily didn't reply. She just looked down at her papers, pretending to read, but her hands trembled slightly. When he left the office, her heart was still racing. That night, alone in her apartment, Lily sat by the window, city lights flickering outside. She replayed his words in her head. "You're not invisible anymore." She didn't want to believe them. But something in his voice, the way he'd said it, almost shyly, made her wonder if maybe, just maybe, he meant it. She closed her eyes, whispering to herself. "Don't trust it. He's just being kind." But deep down, a quiet voice answered. "What if he isn't?" Ethan lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like the man in control. He'd built his life around power, success, and charm, but none of it meant anything when she looked at him like that. He didn't want to win her. He wanted to understand her. And that terrified him more than anything. The following week brought an unexpected twist, a business trip. Ethan and Lily were scheduled to visit a potential investor in another city, a 2-day presentation that could bring millions to the company. It wasn't unusual, they'd traveled before, but this time, everything felt different. They didn't talk much in the car. The silence wasn't hostile, just heavy. Lily stared out the window, cityscapes turning into open roads. Ethan drove, one hand on the wheel, the other occasionally tapping to the rhythm of the music, quiet, almost thoughtful. He kept stealing glances at her reflection in the glass. Calm. Distant. Beautiful in that effortless way she didn't even notice. "Are you nervous about the meeting?" he asked finally. Lily shook her head. "No. Just focused." "You always are." She gave a faint smile. "That's my job, isn't it?" "Maybe. But it's more than that," he said quietly. "You care about things most people don't." She turned her head, surprised. That's not a bad thing. It's not, he said. It's rare. Their eyes met for a second, long enough to feel something unspoken, before she looked away again. They arrived at the hotel just before sunset. It was one of those sleek business places, glass walls, golden lighting, the smell of coffee and rain. At the reception, there was a small problem. Sorry, Mr. Blake, the clerk said apologetically. Due to a booking error, we only have one suite left. 2 bedrooms, shared living space. Ethan hesitated, glancing at Lily. She stayed calm. That's fine. Are you sure? She nodded. We're adults, Ethan. I think we can survive 2 nights. He smiled faintly. Fair point. That evening, after hours of reviewing presentation slides, they decided to take a break. Lily stood by the window, looking out at the glowing skyline. It's strange, she said softly. You work so hard, and yet the view always feels the same. Ethan looked up from his laptop. What do you mean? She turned, her expression thoughtful. You reach goals, sign deals, earn more zeros, and still, there's always another mountain waiting. Doesn't it ever get exhausting? He leaned back, studying her. You sound like someone who's thought about this a lot. I have, she said quietly. Because I've seen you chase things non-stop. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if you stopped running. Ethan smiled, but it wasn't his usual confident grin. Maybe I wouldn't know how to. Lily's tone softened. That's kind of sad. Maybe, he admitted. But it's how I got here. She tilted her head. And where exactly is here, Ethan? Do you even like it? The question hit him harder than he expected. No one ever asked him that, not seriously. He stared at the floor for a moment before saying, I used to. I thought success would fix everything. But lately. He stopped. Lately what? He looked up, eyes quieter now. Lately, it feels like I'm surrounded by people who only like the version of me they can use. The charming, perfect one. Not the real one. Lily smiled gently. Then maybe it's time you stop hiding behind him. He met her gaze, and for the first time, there was no wall between them, no boss and assistant, no act, just 2 people who understood loneliness a little too well. Later, they went downstairs for dinner. It wasn't formal, just 2 colleagues sharing a meal, but the air between them was charged with something unspoken. Ethan ordered wine, Lily chose tea. They talked about work, then drifted into lighter topics, childhood, music, dreams. Let me guess, she said with a teasing tone. You were probably the popular kid in school. He chuckled. Guilty. And you? I was the quiet one. The one people asked for homework help, not parties. Ethan smiled. I'd probably have copied your answers. She laughed softly, shaking her head. You? No. You'd charm the teacher into giving you extra credit instead. Probably true, he admitted. The waiter brought dessert, and they shared one slice, neither admitting they didn't want a full one alone. When their hands brushed reaching for the same spoon, the moment froze. Lily pulled back quickly, flustered. Sorry. Ethan's voice was low. Don't be. The air grew still again, not uncomfortable, just fragile. Back upstairs, they worked side by side, laptops glowing in the dim light. Around midnight, Lily closed hers and stretched. We should get some sleep. Yeah, Ethan said, though he didn't move. She turned toward her room. Good night, Mr. Blake. Ethan, he corrected quietly. She paused, then smiled. Good night, Ethan. He watched her disappear into her room, and something in him felt lighter, and heavier, at the same time. The next morning, during the presentation, they were flawless. Lily handled every question with calm confidence, Ethan followed her lead perfectly. The investor was impressed, shaking hands, promising future contracts. As they walked out of the building, the morning sun hit them both, and for the first time, Ethan realized how much she'd become his anchor, steady, grounding, real. "You were incredible in there," he said. Lily smiled. "That's what you pay me for." He shook his head. "No, that's what I depend on you for." For a second, neither spoke. The words hung between them, heavier than they sounded. That evening, back at the hotel, rain began to fall. The meeting was done, but neither of them wanted to sleep. They sat on the balcony, the city lights blurring through the drizzle. Ethan handed her a glass of wine. "To surviving another deal." She smiled, clinking her glass lightly. "To surviving you." He laughed, shaking his head. "Fair." For a while, they just listened to the rain. Then, quietly, he said, "You make me see things differently, you know that?" Lily turned toward him. "That's not my job." "I know," he said. "But you do it anyway." Her heart skipped a beat. "Ethan." He met her eyes, calm, steady, open. "I meant what I said. You're not invisible. Not to me. Not anymore." The rain grew louder, but neither of them moved. She wanted to speak, to remind him that this was dangerous, that they couldn't afford whatever this was. But her words stayed locked behind her heartbeat. Finally, she whispered, "You should get some rest." He smiled softly. "Yeah. Good night, Lily." She turned away, but as she did, her reflection caught his in the glass, two people sitting side by side, both pretending not to feel the same thing. That night, Ethan lay awake listening to the rain against the windows. He'd spent years chasing excitement, power, perfection, but what he felt now was none of those things. It was quieter. Deeper. He didn't know what would happen next. But for the first time in a long time, he wanted to find out. The morning after the rain, everything felt strangely clear. The air outside the hotel was crisp, washed clean. The city below shimmered under soft sunlight. Ethan stood on the balcony with his coffee, staring at the skyline. He didn't feel like the man he used to be. Something had shifted inside, quietly but irreversibly. Lily appeared behind him, her hair loose, a mug in hand. "Good morning," she said softly. He turned, smiling. "Morning." For a moment, they just stood there, side by side, watching the city wake up. No words, no tension, just quiet understanding. Back at the office the next day, life seemed to return to normal. Emails, meetings, phone calls, the usual chaos. But Ethan couldn't focus. Every time Lily spoke, his attention followed. Every time she laughed with someone else, his chest tightened. He wasn't used to this feeling, the lack of control. And for once, he didn't hate it. Later that week, the company held a press event to announce the new deal. Ethan stood in the center of it all, cameras, journalists, investors. He should have felt proud. But all he could think about was that Lily wasn't there. He found her in her office later, packing up files. "You skipped the press event," he said lightly. "I had work to finish," she replied without looking up. "Lily." His tone softened. "You're the reason that deal happened. You should have been there." She paused, finally meeting his eyes. "It wasn't my place. It was exactly your place." She smiled faintly. "Ethan, you know how it looks. You and your assistant showing up together again after the gala. People already talk." He stepped closer. "Let them talk." She shook her head, her voice quiet but firm. "You don't get it. You live in that world. I don't." There it was, the line between them, drawn clean and sharp. He stared at her for a moment, then said quietly, "What if I don't want to live in that world anymore?" Her expression softened, but she didn't speak. Over the next few days, things got harder. Lily started avoiding late nights at the office. She left early, answered only what was necessary. Ethan tried to respect that, but the distance was unbearable. One evening, he found her on the rooftop terrace, sitting alone after everyone had gone home. The city lights glowed around her, her hair catching the breeze. He walked over slowly. "Thought I'd find you here." She smiled faintly. "Needed air." He stood beside her. "You're leaving, aren't you?" Her eyes widened. "How did you?" "I saw the HR email draft on your screen this morning." She sighed. "You weren't supposed to." He took a breath. "Why?" Lily looked out over the city. "Because I can't do this anymore. Not like this. Every day I'm fighting not to feel something I shouldn't. And it's exhausting." He was silent for a moment. Then quietly, "What if it's not wrong to feel it?" She turned to him, her eyes full of pain and longing. "You're my boss, Ethan. The power difference, the rumors, the expectations, it all matters. I can't just pretend it doesn't." He nodded slowly. "Then I'll change it." She frowned. "What?" "I'll resign." She blinked, stunned. "You can't." "I can," he said firmly. "I've built enough. Maybe it's time I start something real. Something that actually means something." Lily shook her head, stepping back. "Don't say that because of me." "I'm saying it because of me," he replied. "You just made me see it." Her eyes filled with tears she didn't want to show. "Ethan, this isn't fair." He smiled faintly. "Maybe not. But for the first time, I'm not chasing the next deal or the next distraction. I'm chasing you, and that feels right." There was silence between them. The city hummed below, cars like stars in motion. Finally, Lily whispered, "I don't know if I can trust this." He took a slow step closer. "Then let me prove it." She stared at him for a long moment, searching, weighing, before saying softly, "Don't make promises you'll regret." "I've made worse mistakes," he said. "Not telling you how I feel would be the biggest." And for a heartbeat, all the walls between them fell. He didn't touch her, he just stood close enough that she could feel the truth in his voice. "I see you, Lily. The way you think, the way you care, the way you hold the world together quietly while everyone else shouts. You're not just part of my life. You're the best part." Her breath caught. Then, slowly, she reached out, touching his hand, light as a whisper. "Then show me," she said. 2 weeks later, the office buzzed with news. Ethan Blake was stepping down as CEO. The announcement stunned everyone. Lily, standing at her desk, watched the headline on her screen in disbelief. "Ethan Blake resigns, plans to launch independent consultancy." He hadn't told her. Not officially. She was still processing it when he appeared at her doorway, no tie, no briefcase, just a quiet smile. "Surprised?" he asked. "More than a little," she admitted. He handed her an envelope. Inside was a letter of recommendation, for her, signed by him. "You're free now," he said gently. "No more rules. No more titles." She looked up, tears in her eyes. "What are you doing, Ethan?" He smiled softly. "Starting over." He turned to leave, but she stopped him. "Wait." He looked back. "You're really serious about this?" she asked. "Completely." She exhaled, stepping closer. "Then maybe. I'd like to start over too." He tilted his head. "As what?" Lily smiled, a real one this time. "As two people. No job titles. No masks." Ethan's grin widened, slow and genuine. "I think I could live with that." She laughed softly, shaking her head. "You're impossible." He leaned in, whispering, "Maybe. But now I'm your problem." This time, when he kissed her, gentle, certain, it wasn't a game, or an accident, or a stolen moment. It was the beginning of something honest. Months later, they stood in a quiet cafe, their laptops open side by side, partners in a small startup that helped local entrepreneurs grow. No grand office, no press, no gold-plated logo. Just work, laughter, and peace. As Lily sipped her coffee, she looked at him over the rim of her cup. "Do you ever miss the old days?" she asked. Ethan thought for a moment, then smiled. "Not even a little." She raised an eyebrow. "Not even the power, the fame, the attention?" He chuckled, leaning closer. "Why would I? I've already got the only attention that matters." Lily rolled her eyes, but her cheeks warmed. "You're still a charmer." "Maybe," he said softly, "but now I'm only charming one person." She laughed, shaking her head, and reached for his hand. Outside, the city kept moving, loud, fast, endless, but in that small corner of it, time slowed. Because sometimes, the best stories don't end with fireworks. They end with quiet understanding, steady love, and two people who finally saw each other clearly.